Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama. And I want to, first of all, this week give a shout out and thank you to Leah Palmer-Price from Curious Art Lab. Leah, thank you so much. You've referred a number of people to me who have been just fabulous guests. And my guest today is one of them. And she's Diana. Diana runs the Etsy shop Beadwork & Co. Hi, Diana.
Hello.
And Diana's all the way in the UK, and I'm so excited because I like to talk to international Etsy sellers because we're all over the world, and I think sometimes people forget that Etsy sellers are everywhere and Etsy buyers are everywhere. So I'm really glad you're on the podcast.
Well, probably a bit more international than you planned because I live in the UK, but I am actually German.
Oh, please tell us more about yourself.
Oh, well, I'm 38, mother of two. I've got a son and a daughter, 4 and 7. And my husband is the Brit in the family. So that's why we live in the UK here now.
Okay. So he imported you from Germany, huh?
Yeah, well, he kind of couldn't get rid of me anymore.
That's funny. Okay, now you have an interesting background because you did an apprenticeship as a vehicle electrician, and then you got a degree as a technical author, and now you're making jewelry.
Yeah, well, I did the apprenticeship because I've got a general interest in technical things, and I believe it still shows in what I do now. Because I do use a lot of geometrical shapes and things. And, well, the studies as technical author was based on my apprenticeship, really. I worked with Volkswagen and with Bosch for a while. So it's all linked,
yeah.
Really.
And I can see that because I can see your pieces are very geometric. So, yeah, it does show in your work. And you've entered these into exhibitions, is that true?
Yes, I've done a couple here in the area, so more locally, and one of my necklaces has won an award for 3D art. So, yeah.
Very nice.
Nice to get a bit of recognition.
I know, that's always good. That's always good. So when did you first discover Etsy?
Well, actually, I was really looking for a place to sell online. I hadn't heard of Etsy before. It's not that popular here in the UK or in Germany. Unless you find someone that sells handmade themselves, they will probably have heard about it. But the broad public, not so much.
Okay. So how did you come to know about it? Is it just because you got into the handmade movement?
Well, I made my jewellery, and when we moved over to the UK, I had to give up my job in Germany. And while the kids were settling in here, I wanted to stay at home. So I thought, well, I'll make it anyway, and I had been making for quite a while, so the standard was pretty good as well.
Right.
I thought I might try to sell and just started researching a little bit what is out there and what ways there are to sell.
Oh, nice. Okay. So tell us specifically, for those who aren't familiar with Beadwork & Co., what you sell in your Etsy shop.
Well, I make beadwork. Yeah, if you search beadwork on Etsy, then it can get quite confusing because I don't think there is a clear definition. What I do is bead weaving. So I weave tiny single glass beads together to form shapes. And I use a couple of other techniques, but it's always the very small ones. I don't just string beads.
Okay. So it's not beaded jewelry as most people imagine beaded jewelry.
No, most people, first when you say, oh yeah, I make beaded jewelry, they kind of smile a bit and yeah, I know. But then when they see it, they are quite surprised in a good way.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I really like, there's a pen that you have, the peyote bead pen.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are quite popular.
Oh,
Make
I
quite
can
few
see
as
why.
presents as well.
Yeah, yeah, I can see why. So basically, you will bead anything, not anything, but you can bead certain things to dress them up.
Yeah, well, I started with jewelry that is mostly purely made just out of beads and thread.
Hmm.
And then just looking around for a few other things I could get into, I found, for example, these pen blanks, which are usually made for wood turning. So you will find the same kind of pens on Etsy where people have made the outer shell of wood or things like that.
Okay.
And I just thought, yeah, well, I can bead around that.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
yeah, I try to be flexible and a bit different.
Yeah, that's good. Now, when did you first open your Etsy shop?
That was in February 2012, I believe, just before Valentine's Day.
Oh, okay. Was that a good time?
It could have been a good time, I think, if I would have been a bit better prepared.
Ah, okay. Nice. But you've learned since then.
Oh, a lot, a lot.
Good. So you said when you first opened your Etsy shop, your original intention was you wanted to stay home with the kids.
Yeah, it was kind of to fund my hobby while
Okay.
I'm at home. Maybe make a few extra pounds to take the kids out a day or something.
Okay.
Not really as main support or to pay the mortgage.
Okay. And is that still the primary purpose of keeping your Etsy shop open?
Y- I wish it could be more, but I just think due to what I make, it would be difficult to get it really to a stage where it's a full-time income.
Okay. Are you happy with where it is though?
It could go a bit better.
Okay. Okay. I know.
It always can't
I
it?
know. I was going to say, yeah, anything can always be better. Yeah, it depends on where you want to go with it. So right now, do you still stay home or do you have a job outside of Etsy?
Well, I am still at home, but
Okay.
my daughter is going to start full-time school in September.
Okay.
So, and we have then been here for nearly 3 years, where I think that's enough time to settle in. So I am actually looking around for at least a part-time job while the children are in school.
Okay. So right now, how do you manage your time between selling on Etsy and your other responsibilities in the home?
Yeah, well, the kids the son goes to school in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and my daughter 3 times a week to nursery. And then I usually whisk through the house, do what needs doing, and then sit down with the computer for a while. The actual making and beading I do more in the evening. So
Okay.
you are actually taken away from my beading time now.
Yes, because it's like 8 p.m. there, right?
Yes, it is. So I would usually have the telly on now and sit in my armchair and do beading.
Well, I appreciate you spending this time with me instead.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Oh, good.
No, it's nice for a change, actually.
Yeah.
So and sometimes if I just don't have the inspiration, then I spend my evening folding, washing, or whatever. So I've got, or I take the luxury really to do it as I feel like doing it, because I find if I force myself, I'm usually not happy with the result anyway and start unpicking it again.
Okay. Okay. Now, what inspires you when you're making a piece?
I usually go from a certain focal piece that I pick. Like last year, my husband was taking apart our old computer to make sure that all the hard drive and everything is wiped clean before it goes to the tip. And it had these really cool heatsink on it in bright orange.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, I can do something with that. It's like an aluminium square piece. It's still in my shop as well.
Uh-huh.
And I loved that. And I started from there to like, what bead colors would go with it, and what would the overall feel of the piece be, and everything. So, and that is how I get going.
Okay. Would you say that most items are beatable?
Yeah, it doesn't always make sense to beat everything. And I'm more of a practical nature, so there's certain things where I say, no, if you want to beat on that, fair enough, I won't.
Yeah. Okay. Do you ever spend time looking at other Etsy shops that sell things similar to what you sell?
I do, simply because I'm usually quite curious how they do marketing-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that is, I think, my biggest struggle, and that is where I look around a lot and try to learn.
Okay. And so far, and I want to touch back on the marketing thing, so we'll come back to that. But in your time on Etsy, have you had any bad experiences or had to deal with any disputes or negative feedback?
Not really. I mean, if you had a look at my shop, you see that I don't really sell high volume. But so far, I think they have all been happy. I had one lady that didn't look properly at the listing, and then when she received the item, got back to me. But that was all resolvable.
Mm-hmm.
So she was happy in the end, and that's the important bit.
Okay. So let's talk about marketing now. How are you promoting your Etsy shop?
Well, I've got a Facebook page for
Okay.
it.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a Google Plus page that I started together with my website, really, because I read that Google Plus would be quite good to have if it's linked to a website.
Oh, okay.
As mentioned, I have got my own website now since June. I used to have Twitter, but just absolutely hated it.
Really?
So I decided, no, I don't have to do that. I just leave it.
Right, right. And this is true. Every social media outlet. I know I've heard different philosophies. Some people say be everywhere, and some people say do what works the best for you. And so how are Facebook and Google Plus working for you?
Well, actually, I think working is Pinterest best. I'm on there as well,
Okay.
and I do get quite a bit of traffic from it. The next would then probably be Facebook. Um, I'm always not sure if those are really people that would be interested in buying, or if it's more other makers and other shop owners that kind of just try to network.
Okay.
So I've got a bit my doubts about this whole social thing. Well, it kind of belongs to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. You have to get on the bandwagon. Do you do much communication with people on Facebook and Pinterest is not really about communicating as far as I know. It's all
No,
pinning.
it isn't.
But like on Google Plus, those are a bit more social where you can actually have conversations with people and communicate with people. Do you do any of that, or do you primarily just post what you're making and what you're selling?
I think I probably do more the communicating thing.
Okay,
Where
good.
I think, like on Facebook, when I leave a comment somewhere or like something, if people want to know who I am, then they can come and have a look at my Facebook page, and from there get to that if they want to. I hate it if I'm bombarded with listings and pictures of things people are trying to sell, so I avoid that where I can. I mix it in as well, of course, but really just if I've got a new listing or something, so not too much.
Right. And that's exactly the reason I was asking, is because sometimes you look at a Facebook feed of just someone who sells, and that's all you see. And there's really no communication, no socializing, and it's a social network. And there should be some socializing, and it's easier, I think. Sorry, I know I'm stepping on a soapbox here, but I will continue. It's easier, I think, for people to buy from you once they know you and they've, communicated with you and they feel a bit more comfortable rather than, just always putting a billboard in front of them and never really saying anything other than, see what I'm selling, see what I'm selling, see what I'm selling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is as well why I decided to not do Twitter anymore, because I ended up just putting listings on there and thought, no, that's not the point. And one of the things I hate the most is these people, because they feel they've got to be everywhere and they link it together. And you've got the Facebook feed and you suddenly see a weird cut-off post that's come from Twitter. Horrible.
But you can communicate on Twitter too.
Yes, of course you can, but then I make a post that is just for Twitter and goes with the Twitter rules.
Right.
I don't try to post something from Twitter onto my Facebook page where it then just looks odd.
Right, yes. And you bring up a really good point, because Twitter and Facebook work really differently, I think. The type of communication you do on each of those platforms is different. You can't talk to people on Facebook like you talk to them on Twitter, and vice versa. There's of course the character limit on Twitter, which means you're going to be communicating differently, whereas on Facebook there isn't that. And so I think people do miss the mark when they do those feeds that everything goes out to, the same identical thing goes out to different, all the different social media platforms, right? Because they need to be used differently. And that reminds me of a book I read, which, I don't know if anyone will have time to read it, but it was actually quite good. What's the guy's name? Gary Vaynerchuk. Jab, too many jabs in the title. But then right hook comes. And then, basically he's talking about is saying these social media platforms are all different and you have to use them differently. The same thing cannot work across the board on everything. So that's one good thing and that's one thing I really picked up. But it's hard work. It's hard to keep up on every social media platform.
Yeah, you've just got to decide on the ones that suit you best and then stick to that.
Yeah, I agree.
If you do it, it's worth doing it properly, really.
Right. Do it well and, get results.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your website now. So you just set that up in June.
Yes.
Okay. So the website now, is it primarily for selling, or do you sell through it and you blog as well?
Well, I don't sell through it at all. At the moment, from there, it just links to the Etsy shop.
Okay.
I use it more as like for the fans that want to keep up a little bit and as a portfolio. So I'll have pictures of things that I've made on there, and then it just says like, for a current selection of designs, please see my Etsy shop.
Okay.
So I find that okay for now.
Okay. Oh, I meant to ask you this, Diana. Do you do live shows or craft fairs?
I have tried craft fairs in the beginning, but just found that I think probably because of the price point, people are a bit shy to spend the money at craft fairs.
Okay.
So what I've done now is a couple of exhibitions where the pieces, of course, have price tags as well.
Yeah.
Or like on Monday, I've got starting well, if you want, you can call it an exhibition, I suppose, in a local hotel here, an upmarket one. They have like a display cabinet for local artists. So I'm going to have some pieces in there for 8 weeks.
Oh.
And see how that goes.
Okay.
And things like that more, not the traditional craft fairs.
Okay. So let's talk about that. So there is actually a mental shift, would you say, between people who attend craft fairs and exhibitions. So if someone is going to a craft fair, they're expecting to get
Felted owl key rings.
Okay.
basically. Things like that, or bunting. At the moment, the whole vintage thing is really big here in the UK.
Okay.
And you have looked at my shop. I don't
Yes.
really fit in there.
No.
So I'm trying a bit more to go down the art route, the modern and contemporary thing.
Well, why are you changing your style to fit
Well,
the market?
I'm not changing my style. The style is the same.
Okay.
I just think I've come more to try and find my target market instead of just standing there and saying that is me, that is what I do. Like it. I noticed that not everyone likes it, and
Mm-hmm.
if it's not successful, then I don't do it anymore.
Okay. So in an exhibition, would you say that there's more variety or a different type of product that people expect to see than they would at the craft fair?
I think it depends a bit on the place where it is on the gallery.
Okay.
Like in the last one where I won that 3D award, I mean, they had paintings and photography and really modern and a bit more traditional. It was all very well mixed up,
Okay.
which I think suited me. And then you, of course, get people that like your things and people that don't, which is all fair enough.
Right. Oh, I forgot the other question I was going to ask. But yeah, no, that all makes sense. About how much time do you? Oh, I remember now. Your photography. Do you do all your photography yourself?
Yes, I do. It's come a long way since I started.
What has changed?
Well, I think probably like a lot of people, I started my Etsy shop and thought, yeah, here I am. Please buy my things. And I then started looking around and thought, okay, I really need to step up a bit here.
Yeah.
And then you get onto teams and you learn a lot and you try a lot as well. And, well, things improve.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yes, because your photos are quite nice. I notice you do a lot of I don't know if this is the right term, but depth perception with some of them.
I quite like the funny angles and
Yeah.
things that make it a bit interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though I've heard in a lot of teams, oh, you should go for something that shows the scale and I always think, no, I want to really show the intricacy. I want to see, or I want them to see every single bead and make them nosy and then click on the listing.
Funny. Okay. So how much time each week would you say you spend doing all things Etsy related?
You mean including the making or just on Etsy?
Including the making.
Including the making, ooh, I would probably say it's gonna be around the 20 hours mark.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's a good investment of your time.
Yeah, it might be a bit less
Mhm.
some weeks and a bit more the other week. If it really catches me the fever and I've got an project that like really has got me going, then I can spend all day 7 hours beading.
Yeah.
And then I've got days where I think, nah, I don't really know where to go with this. Just put it to the side and leave it for a bit.
Right, right. Oh, nice. And then you mentioned earlier that you joined teams. Have you developed any new relationships through Etsy?
Yeah, I have. I've joined a local team here, a Pretty Midlands team. And they did a craft party as well this year where we actually met up in person with a few of the members.
Nice. How was that?
And that was really good. Yeah, it was really nice to actually see people that you usually just meet on the computer on the team. And
Yeah.
because a lot of people don't have a picture of themselves
Mm-hmm.
as avatar. I don't either. So you kind of get an idea what they look like.
Right.
And then you meet them in person and you think, what? That's you? So,
We'll take that as a good what?
just
That's you?
surprised by. So yeah, it's nice. Or for example, another team, I'm on the Etsy bead weavers.
Uh-huh.
So they do all around bead weaving and beadwork.
Uh-huh.
And they are a really nice, close-knit team as well, which kind of promote each other's shops and things. They do monthly challenges.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like 2 months ago, one of the members' daughter was diagnosed with cancer. And they had a bit trouble with all the health costs and everything. So the team chipped in and we made one treasury with items that people donated for the cause.
Oh.
And like when they sold, the money was straight away sent to her family. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
teams can be more than just self-promotion.
Oh, yeah. That is excellent. What team is that?
That's the Etsy bead weavers.
The Etsy Bead Weavers. I'll put a link in there. Is that promotion still going on?
I think the treasury is probably quite bare now.
Oh, okay.
They haven't made a new one, but I think actually the problem has been solved now as well.
Oh, okay.
But it just shows what kind of team it is, really.
Yeah, yeah. How did you go about picking the teams that you wanted to join?
Oh, in the beginning, I joined quite a few teams, and then I kind of thinned out again, where I thought, no, I'm basically pretty sick of looking at all your listings and nothing else. So I then just left a few of the teams again, and sometimes you come across someone that says, oh yeah, that team is good, and so you have a look and then decide.
Yeah. Are you pretty active in all the teams you belong to, or are there some where you're just a bit more passive?
I'm like in the Etsy success team, and there's an Etsy UK seller team as well. I'm not sure if I got the name right now, but they are more where I like read and go for information and rarely post. But then there are other teams where I'm naturally a bit more active.
Okay.
Depends on the team and the people, really.
Right. Yeah. That's good. Have you ever wanted to quit Etsy or close your Etsy shop?
I don't know. It's difficult. I think a lot of sellers were very upset when they started making all these changes to how they define handmade and everything. And I was one of them, because I don't know, I think probably the shops that do handmade but have a chance to it's difficult to say this now because you don't want to step on anyone's toes.
No, don't
But
say
people
anything that you
like
don't want to say.
do- No, like people that do screen printing, for example. Nothing against screen printing, it's fine. But you can do more in one go, which I still consider handmade, it's fine. But I sit there and every piece I make takes hours of work. Some are made in 5, some are made in 20. It just makes it difficult for me to fill my shop up
Oh, I
to
see.
the same amount that others have.
Right.
And if then on top of the ones that do it within the rules, to have to kind of conquer the ones that do it outside of the rules as well is difficult, very difficult.
I see.
So, and that is where I was thinking, is it really worth it? And that was one reason why I set up the website. I thought something like that takes a while to get going. So set it up. It doesn't cost you that much if you don't sell through it. And just let it build up in case you do want to leave Etsy one day.
Okay.
Then you can and have got something to fall back to or onto.
Okay. Do you know of any other sites where where you can sell your handmade products? Are you familiar with any other venues?
Well, there are a couple of UK ones as well where you can sell.
Okay.
I've tried one of them, but I don't know, I suppose because I started on Etsy and I was quite used to Etsy's way of doing things,
Yeah.
I just didn't really like it. And I've always got the added trouble of selling one-of-a-kind things.
Right.
So I can't list them in the Etsy shop and somewhere else
Yeah.
because I'm constantly worried that something sells in both places.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to take half my inventory and go somewhere else. So I just decided to stay on Etsy.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. When you get a new idea for a new product that you want to make, how long typically does it take you from when you get the idea to actually executing it and then listing it on Etsy?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. I think that very much depends on the item. I think.
Right. Uh-huh.
If it's something that utilizes techniques that I already know and it's just a different pattern, for example, or something, it can go quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something completely wild and new and I've got to experiment a lot, it can take a while or it might never make it. I've had that happen as well.
I would like to see what you classify as completely wild and new.
Oh, I usually just take it apart again and think, oh, I can use the beads better somewhere else.
Nice.
Don't waste any.
Do you find that you sometimes get in a creative rut, and then how do you get yourself out of that?
That is where I actually find these Etsy bead weaver challenges quite interesting.
Oh, good.
Because it's like there's a theme set,
Mm-hmm.
and the winner of the challenge gets to set the next theme. So it's always different people coming up with it, and the themes are very different. We had from inspired by Fabergé to now it's Scotland the Brave. So it's a very broad variety what can come up. And that is, well, it's called a challenge, and it is a challenge, and very interesting.
Nice. Do you participate in most of them?
I try to. Sometimes I find it difficult to make the deadline, because we have a challenge every month, and sometimes I start something and then, I don't know, maybe one of the kids is sick, or it's school holidays and I don't get round to much. Or just inspiration leaves me, abandons me, and then I don't get it finished on time. But I do try to make most of them.
Yeah, nice. Good. Yeah, it sounds like that would keep the creative juices flowing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What are some things that you would say you did to set yourself up to be successful on Etsy, or that maybe you're trying to implement now to be more successful?
Well, I have now actually just made quite an investment in gift boxes and in the whole branding thing.
Nice.
So that I've got, according to the pieces, of course, the boxes, and got me from an Etsy shop actually a wax seal with my shop logo in it. So I then put a wax seal on every gift box and things like that to just get it a bit more upmarket as well, to kind of try to justify the price in the end, I think, because I think a lot of people are not quite aware how much work goes into it. So they look at the price and probably think, So yeah. Just trying to get the right idea, the right brand and feel out there.
Okay. So did you hired a professional to do your branding?
No. I'm pretty much a DIY person. I made my own logo and everything.
You made that?
My own banners and yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah. And for anyone, if you're listening to the podcast on iTunes or Stitcher or a podcast application, if you hop over to convome.com, you'll see Diana's logo. It's very nice. It's very simple, but it's classy. You did.
Thank you.
What's a lesson that you would say you learned the hard way about selling on Etsy?
I think it's probably not to look around too much and not to compare too much.
Mm.
Because I did that in the beginning. I kind of had like a price in my mind, what I thought I would like and how I want things to go. And then I started looking around and doubted everything really, because the variety is so big on there. And not just from items people make and from styles people have, but also from the price range.
Yeah.
And just to accept that there might be people selling something similar to what I make cheaper, but I've got a point to make, to sell, and that is what I made, and that is the money I would like for it. So pay it or leave it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Plus, your cost of supplies and all that might be different. You just never know.
Yeah, I think, well, because Etsy is international, and you just have places where I think probably the cost of living is very different.
Yeah.
So people have a different expectation when it comes to what they charge for their work, may it be for hour or per hour or overall, and that reflects in their prices.
Yeah.
So, and that is just something I can't and I don't want to battle and conquer. So I might not sell a lot, but I do make a few sales, and
Okay.
I'm happy with the money I get for my things.
Right. And you have 5-star reviews, so the people that you're selling to are happy as well.
Yeah, it seems like it.
If you could ask for a new feature on Etsy that's not currently offered, what would you want to see?
I think I would quite be interested in the shipping labels if they would be available here in the UK. That would be nice.
Oh, the UK does not have shipping labels?
No, we don't.
So how do you handle shipping?
Well, I go to the Royal Mail website and then see like how much my gift box with the item weighs, and that calculates the price. But I've then got to write by hand. I know you can print the labels via PayPal as well, but I haven't really worked that one out yet. And it's okay because I don't sell huge amounts, so I don't mind writing the package by hand.
Okay.
But I think the shipping labels sound good.
Okay. So wait, so for each item, do you how do you set the shipping price? Do you have to go to the post office each time?
Well, when the order comes in, then I wrap it and pack it and take it to the post office, of course. Beforehand, it's surprising really how light the glass beads are. So I usually estimate a little bit by how much the packaging is for, like, I use that kind of box for necklace and that box for bracelet.
Okay.
And then I've just got in my policies that if the shipping was overpaid, I'll refund it.
Okay.
But I'm usually below what I pay with the shipping.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So let's say there's someone listening who has just started out on Etsy and they're kind of struggling to find their way. What advice would you give to that person?
Try to learn as much as you can on Teams, on the seller handbook, all resources that are there, because I'm again and again surprised how many new sellers turn up and send out convos about their newest offer, and they didn't know that they are not allowed to do that. Where I think, well, you could be a bit better prepared for this.
Okay. So use the resources that are available.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And what's something that you're doing now that you think is really working well for your Etsy business?
Oh, Well, I've worked a lot on my SEO recently because I've joined a team that is very, very helpful, the Commitment Group. They do a lot of shop critiques, and you can ask them questions. They are very knowledgeable, but they expect you to chip in as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they do a shop critique, and they expect all the members to actually look at the shop that is being critiqued and give their opinion. And if it's just from like a biased point of view, it doesn't have to be professional.
Right.
So and that has helped a lot.
Oh, good. I think it's only fair to request that people do be involved in teams. And so when you join, like, so this is the commitment team, do you get just one shop critique?
I know they kind of set you a task. When you join the team, you of course fill in like why you want to join and everything, so they know what you think your weaknesses are.
Okay.
And then you like work on the first 4 listings in your shop, going through their like tick list and their tips, and say, okay, I've implemented what you recommend, and I think that's as good as it's gonna get at the moment. Could you have a look?
Okay.
And then they'll have a look, and you get tips and hints where you can improve and what you can do better. And then after a while, when you've implemented all that and you think, yeah, I've done it, I'm there, then you can ask for another critique.
Oh, okay. I like that. It sounds like it is probably a very active group because people are constantly making changes and then asking for critiques and then going back and making changes. And then you also do the same for others. So, right, if someone is there asking for one and you're still working on something, you can go in and critique, right?
Yeah, and it's very interesting because for me now, as a jewelry shop, it's quite interesting to see someone from a different background, maybe, I don't know, making handbags, or one of the leaders, she makes brass, nursery brass and things, or someone works in wood, and they look at my shop and give me an idea what they think I could improve or what the feel is to them. And that makes it very interesting. So it's not just technicalities as the SEO and stuff like that. It's just this overall feeling there.
Okay, nice. It seems like it would be a good idea to get fresh eyes, especially from people who aren't selling what you're selling, because then you see it from the point of view of someone who isn't you or thinking like you.
Yeah, what any buyer would see and would look at and would maybe have a question about.
Yeah.
But I think, well, of course it's this or it's that. Because
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about.
Right. That's great. So, Diana, what's the best way people can reach you if they want to get in touch with you?
Well, there is the Etsy Convo system.
Okay.
I've got pretty much all channels open. I've got email or contact form on my website.
Okay.
Facebook messages if they like, or just put a post on my Facebook page. That's open as well.
Okay. All right.
So if you want to, there's no excuse.
Yeah, you heard it. There's no excuse. And I'm going to have links to all to Diana's Etsy shop, to her website and her Facebook page. So if you're driving when you're listening to this, go to convome.com and look for Beadwork and Co. And all the links to Diana's shops and Facebook page will be right there. Diana, thank you so much for being my guest. I really enjoyed talking to you. You made me laugh more than I normally do. So thank you.
That's nice to hear. It was a pleasure. And it didn't hurt.
Oh, I told you it wouldn't hurt. Thank you for saying that on air. I tell people it's so painless.
Yeah, it was a bit scary, the idea, before we started, but no,
Right.
It's fine.
Good. So thank you for listening. You can reach me on Twitter at Convo Me Podcast, and also on the Etsy Conversations Facebook page. And also you can also reach me through the website convome.com. There's a contact form there. I read mail all the time. I respond by myself. I don't have a team of people. So you will hear back directly from me. Until then, I will talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.